Welcome to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. If you're listening on Spotify, you can support the podcast through listener support. Plus, check out exclusive show-related content and join the community at patreon.com/Animal Stories for Kids. And now, it's time for our story. Once upon a time, there was an African penguin named Mpho and his lovely mate, Kaya. Mpho and Kaya, the African penguins, were brave and caring penguins that lived on the sunny shores of South Africa. A few weeks ago, Mpho, the African penguin, dug out a small burrow in the sand near some big rocks, and he had just brought the last twig he found to complete the nest, and his mate Kaya, the African penguin, was able to lay a precious egg on the sandy beach. And a little while later, she was able to lay a second egg. Mpho and Kaya, the African penguins, were overjoyed and knew they had to take special care of their soon-to-hatch chicks. Kaya carefully nestled over the eggs, keeping them warm and safe from the chilly ocean breeze. "Mpho," she said, "our little ones will need lots of food when they hatch. Can you go and catch some fish while I guard the eggs?" "Of course," Mpho the African penguin replied with a determined nod. He knew that finding food was important, and he was ready to provide for his family. With a splash, Mpho dove into the sparkling blue waters, swimming gracefully through the waves. As Mpho glided through the water, he started chasing all the fish that he could see, twisting and churning, having a really good time. But it wasn't all fun and games in the water. Mpho had to keep an eye out for the sharks. The sharks thought penguins looked like a tasty treat, and so they all started following Mpho. They were chasing him, and Mpho, the African penguin, was having a hard time trying to catch fish while being chased by the sharks. Mpho, the African penguin, said to himself, "Okay, Mpho, you got 2 extra mouths to feed now. Better get back safe." And he swam around trying to lose the sharks. Meanwhile, back on the beach, Kaya, the African penguin, was having an interesting time on her own as well. She snuggled close to the eggs, keeping them warm with her fluffy belly. But suddenly, a kelp gull swooped down with its eyes on the eggs. "Hey you! Get away from my eggs!" Kaya squawked, flapping her wings to shoo the kelp gull away. The kelp gull squawked back, but Kaya, the African penguin, was fierce and protective. She chased the kelp gull away, but more kept coming. She would shoo off one kelp gull, and then another would come, and she would take a stick and toss it to scare the other off, but they just kept on coming. Out in the ocean, Mpho, the African penguin, was having some close calls of his own. He spotted a huge shark swimming nearby. It saw him and started to follow Mpho. The shark said to Mpho, the African penguin, as it followed him, "You already know I can catch you. Give up now, little penguin." Mpho's heart raced, but he remembered his family and swam as fast as his flippers could carry him. He zigzagged through the water, dodging the shark's jaws by inches. "I don't think so, shark," Mpho said to the shark, with his heart pounding with excitement. The shark was getting closer to Mpho, and it said to him, "You messed up now, penguin. You should have given up. Now you're mine." The shark was getting closer, and Mpho, the African penguin, was thinking of a way to lose the shark. Then he found a big school of fish swimming at a distance in front of him. And it was such a big school of fish that you couldn't see past them because there were so many fish swimming together in a big group. And so, Mpho thought about it and had an idea to swim through the school of fish and to catch some fish to eat and use the school of fish to block the shark's sight so it wouldn't be able to see him swim away. So, Mpho swam as fast as he could with the shark still behind him, and he went straight for the big school of fish. and he opened his mouth and swam through the school of fish and filled his beak with some fish and swam away, while the big shark swam through the school of fish and all the little fish got scared and scattered all around, confusing the big shark and blocking its vision. And Mpho, the African penguin, outswam the shark and also had some food for his family. When Mpho, the African penguin, returned to the beach, he waddled up to his mate Kaya with his beak full of fish. She greeted him with a happy squawk. "Welcome back, Mpho. Did you catch enough food?" asked Kaya. "I sure did," Mpho replied proudly, dropping the fish in front of her. "But, oh boy, it was a wild adventure out there. I had to dodge sharks and swim really fast." "This sounds exciting," Kaya the African penguin chuckled. "But let me tell you, guarding these eggs is no easy task either. These kelp gulls kept coming down and I had to keep shooing them away. They're really persistent. They never stop." Mpho and Kaya the African penguins both thought about what it would be like to take on each other's roles. And Mpho and Kaya looked at each other and Mpho suggested, "Hey, how about I watch the egg and you go out and catch the fish?" "Deal," Kaya agreed. She stretched her wings and waddled toward the ocean, ready for her turn at the underwater adventure. Mpho, the African penguin, settled over the eggs, feeling their warmth beneath him. He puffed up his chest, ready to fend off any pesky kelp gulls. At first, it was actually really nice, sitting out there in the sun, enjoying the breeze and watching all the beautiful scenery. But sure enough, it wasn't long before a kelp gull swooped down, aiming for the eggs. Mpho flapped his wings and squawked loudly, scaring the kelp gull away. "Get away, you pesky gull!" shouted Mpho, and it would leave. But another kelp gull would come, and he would chase it off. And then another came and almost got close to the eggs. But Mpho, the African penguin, got back in time to scare it away too. This kept going on, and soon, the nice moment at the beach turned into a not-so-nice moment at the beach for Mpho. Meanwhile, Mpho's mate Kaya, the African penguin, was having the time of her life in the water. She was chasing fish, twisting and turning, and she even had to dodge a few sharks. She was laughing as she swam, as she enjoyed the rush of the waves and the thrill of chasing fish. And then, the huge shark saw her and started swimming around and following her. Kaya the African penguin noticed and swam away and was trying to lose the shark. She swam left, and it went left. And she swam right, and the shark went right too. Then the shark said to Kaya, "Hey, penguin, just give up now. I'm hungry." She said to the shark, "I don't think so. I have babies to feed." And she also saw in a distance a big school of fish. And she thought of the same idea that Mpho the African penguin had. Her idea was that she would swim right through the school of fish and get some fish in her mouth while losing the shark. And so, just as Mpho did, Kaya swam straight into the school of fish. She opened her beak and caught some fish and swam away while the shark ran into the school of fish, and once again, the fish got scared and scattered all over, confusing the shark. And then, the shark just gave up and went away. When she returned, Mpho greeted her with a big smile. "Did you have fun? And did you catch any fish?" he asked. "I did. It was exciting and a bit scary, but I caught some fish." Mpho nodded and replied, "Guarding these eggs was quite an interesting task too. You were right, those kelp gulls are pesky, but I managed to keep them away." They were both relieved that each of them did their task very well. And then, Kaya and Mpho came together and nuzzled each other affectionately, happy that no one got hurt and that each was able to do their task. And Kaya said to him, "I think both of our tasks are challenging in their own way. But you know what? Together, we can handle anything." "You're right," Mpho replied to Kaya. "No matter what role we have, we can always depend on each other to help out." And so, Mpho and Kaya the African penguins took turns caring for their eggs and catching fish, always supporting and encouraging each other. They learned that teamwork and their love for each other made the hardest tasks not as hard. Then finally, one sunny morning, the two eggs began to hatch. Mpho and Kaya the African penguins watched with excitement and anticipation, and they held their breath even as their tiny chicks pecked their way out of their shells. And when they saw their chicks, their hearts swelled with joy as they welcomed their newest family members into the world. And from that day on, Mpho, Kaya, and their two chicks lived their happy lives on the sandy shores of South Africa, always ready for new adventures and always supporting each other through thick and thin. And they knew that together, they could face any challenge in life and also share in all the happy moments. And the African penguins lived happily ever after. The end. The African penguin is also known as the Cape penguin or South African penguin, and they're a species of penguin that can be found on the coast of South Africa. African penguins are 24 to 28 inches tall and can weigh from 5 to almost 8 pounds. African penguins have a black back with a white belly, and they have a black stripe that runs across their chest in the shape of a horseshoe with some black spots on their bellies. And each penguin has a unique pattern of spots. They have a patch of pink above their eyes with a black facial mask. African penguins have a close resemblance and are thought to be related to Humboldt, Magellanic, and Galapagos penguins. African penguins have black feet, and they're also known as the jackass penguins because of the loud noises they make when the penguins are getting to know each other that sound like jackasses or donkeys. As with all penguins, they have wings that are actually flippers and are adapted for swimming, which they can do very well as they hunt down their food. African penguins mainly eat small fish like sardines and anchovies, and they can also eat squid and small crustaceans too. African penguins prefer rocky, coastal areas, and they prefer to build their nests in burrows, on the sand, under bushes, or in rocky crevices to protect their eggs from the sun and predators. African penguins usually find a mate that they stay with for many years. African penguins usually lay 2 eggs at a time, but some have seen them lay 1 or even 3 or 4 eggs at a time. African penguin parents both take turns watching over the eggs, feeding the chicks, and going out to hunt for more food. African penguin chicks are covered in fluffy gray feathers until they're around 3 months old. African penguins can live from 15 to 20 years in the wild and even longer in captivity. African penguins have a special gland above their eyes that protect them from too much salt from the seawater that they drink, which allows them to stay hydrated. African penguins have predators in the sea like sharks and seals, and while they're nesting, they have predators like kelp gulls, mongooses, caracoles, and even some cats and dogs, depending on where they lay their eggs. Have you seen a real-life African penguin before? If you have, where did you see it? If you want to write to us, ask your parent to email us at animalstoriesforkids@gmail.com and tell us what you think of our stories. We would love to hear from you. Thanks for listening to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. If you're listening on Spotify, you can support the podcast through listener support. Plus, check out exclusive show-related content and join the community at patreon.com/animalstoriesforkids. Until next time, bye!